What's up, Cinephiles? For this episode, i-review namin ang mga part ng main competition for Cinemalaya 16. At dahil Cinemalaya na, 1 year na rin ang channel namin. And because of that, consider leaving a like down below. At kung hindi pa kayo nakasubscribe sa channel namin, subscribe to us for weekly reviews of TV shows, movies, or even video games. Now, Kevin, i-inform naman natin sila kung saan sila makakanood ng Cinemalaya.
What you need to do if you want to watch all these competition films, you need to head to vimeo.com, and with the price of $4, that's 200 pesos and 350 pesos for the premium bundle. Mapapanood mo na lahat ng 10 competition films, and not only that, meron pang bonus content with the Indie Nation shorts and as well as the retrospective films from the past Cinemalaya. Now, without further ado, let's start with our first short film. Our first short film is ang Gasgas na Plaka ni Lolo Bert, which is directed by Janina Gacosta and Cheska Marfori. Ang story nito is about the closeted gay man in his 60s who receives a mysterious package, which is a vinyl record from his estranged lover. Upon playing this record, yun nga may gasgas, so he tries to fix it. This story is about finding another shot at love, and I guess pinaka-metaphor ng vinyl is even though old na siya at gasgas, a few tweakings at mahahanap mo uli yung bagong purpose niya. And yun, it's just a sweet and tender film which stars Soliman Cruz and Dido de la Paz, actors that I really admire.
Yeah, Kevin, sa umpisa ng short film na to, merong message about HIV, but that took a step back. Kasi itong movie na to ultimately became about looking for companionship at the twilight of our lives. Kasi yung character dito has a very monotonous life. Malungkot siya sa buhay niya because he's all alone. It's really sweet. Yun na lang masabi ko. Nung nabuhayan ulit yung buhay niya when, well, let's just say, someone new enters into his life. And I really enjoyed the short film. Okay, so ang next naman ay ang Pagpakalma sa Unos, written and directed by Joanna, Vasquez, Arong. Ngayon, ito ay about sa victims ng Typhoon Yolanda and how they cope as narrated by a female voice, which I assume is yung writer-director rin nito. Ngayon, ito, Kevin, this short film really got me. It felt really personal. Mararamdaman mo kasi talaga na it's from a perspective of someone who's been there, who saw firsthand yung mga nangyari dito. And it's really heartbreaking as she narrates kung paano nalang ginawa ng mga tao to cope. And at the same time, meron ditong instance na dinidiscuss kung paano na mishandle yung sitwasyon dun sa Yolanda. It's very relevant sa nangyayari ngayon sa ating bansa. Ayoko masyadong maging political, pero alam naman natin yung mga nangyayari ngayon, yung mga mishandling, yung mga personal interest na nauuna kahit nagsasuffer yung mga tao sa baba, and that just really got me.
I guess this is a documentary short, right? And you can really feel na yung topic na to is very close to the filmmaker. I'm not sure if hometown niya yung Tacloban, but that's what it feels like. There's a lot of personal stories that interwoven in the heart of the Tacloban, in that event, that tragic event that happened way back in 2013 that we try to forget, but these things keep haunting us, and especially now that we're in this pandemic, we are once again reminded about the government inefficiencies. Hindi siya takot mag-throw ng shades about sa Aquino administration, which we're also experiencing now. And then halfway through the film, it sticks mostly on being a photo essay. And you know, at first I was a little bit mixed because why does the filmmaker chose to do this? I think that she wants to emphasize to look at the vividness of the details. Kasi ang gaganda ng mga shots dito, it almost feels like Plaka award winning yung mga shots. Mas lalong naging powerful yung message, and yun nga, the stories is very personal and heartfelt. So moving on, next, Excuse Me, Miss by Sonny Calvento. So, story ni Vanji is a contractual sales lady. She works her really best despite some inefficiencies in her job. Her supervisor noticed those inefficiencies, and what she does in return is blackmail that supervisor as she discovered this dark secret that she keeps. Napaka lighthearted nito sa simula. This one really made me laugh, and I thought this is gonna be some poking on capitalism because yung tune na ginamit nila dito, very reminiscent talaga nung jingle ng isang mall here in the Philippines. The whole arc of Benji is about trying to get this work-life balance na hindi niya talaga ma-achieve sa current state, and it's also about the frustrations of the working class, especially the blue collar. Hindi sila masyado nabibigyan ng credit. Nag-voice out siya ng sentiment na bakit yung mga inefficiencies lang niya yung nai-spot. Hindi naka-highlight yung mga times na nag-exceed yung kanyang expectations. And sometimes that really happens in the work. Yung mga boss natin, sometimes they're fixated with our shortcomings. I think this will resonate much to the working class generation. And yung ending niya is subject to interpretation, so I'm not gonna spoil it, and go ahead and see it for yourselves.
Itong movie na to is probably one of the most upbeat takes on worker exploitation na napanood ko. Because if you really think about it, yung mga inefficiencies na nakita sa kanya is a result of overwork. Hindi madali yung trabaho nitong mga sales lady na to, and it was used against her. Kinwestiyon niya na lahat ng trabaho, lahat ng effort nila is for what? Meron bang mapupuntahan? Parang naging conclusion dun is wala rin. And this is a really, really smart film para sa akin. And again, I don't want to spoil the ending kasi subject siya sa interpretation, but it's gonna leave you thinking for a while. And speaking of worker exploitation, ang susunod na film ay Fatigue. Fatigue is an interactive film where you play the role of a person na pagkatapos ma-overwork ay natrap sa isang nightmare wherein you as the viewer, dahil interactive film to, have to escape. I think the conditions were perfect nung pinanood ko kagabi to. Mag-isa ako, madilim, speakers na malakas. This is a very unsettling film. It's very effective in its horror, and I loved every second of it kahit na natatakot ako. Makakita ka lang ng aso, mapapatalon ka. And I really enjoyed my time with this film, and this is also subject to interpretation, but this film really unsettled me and I loved it.
The filmmaker asks you to do some conditions like turn off the lights, use your headphones for maximum entertainment. Now I felt bad because I did the opposite thing, because I know this. I really had a bad feeling that this is trying to scare me. Anyway, that being said, I have to agree this one is really great in building the suspense and tension, and I think that's what most horror films are missing nowadays. They're just too reliant to jump scares. Meron din dito, which I'm not gonna tell when, but it just created that atmosphere. Mostly the setting of this short film is just inside the house, and it feels resonant in a way that we have this general anxiety brewing inside our minds now that we are holed up in our homes. Seems like we're living in a work, eat, sleep, repeat cycle. This feels like a nightmare for me because this is like a dream sequence. It seems like a gimmick for me at the start, but you get what the filmmaker is trying to make you feel. You're being one with your emotions. Brings out the emotions that you were suppressing now in this situation that we are all holed up in our homes. This is one of the most creative shorts here in the bunch. Okay, let's proceed now to Living Things, directed by Martika, Ramirez, Escobar. Now, this one is another experimental film. This is the story of two millennial lovers in a dingy apartment, and one day, the guy turns into a cardboard. And so, what does the girl do with her life? It feels like a thesis question that's turned into a short film, which really works because there's a weirdness that's captured into it. As humans, we are ever evolving, and this one puts that concept into an abstract world where literal na nag-evolve yung guy into a cardboard. So what will you do? So the complexities of human relationship are explored, and it's one of the most introspective films. There's a lot of pondering about it.
It actually also spoke a lot to me. Ang naging message kasi nito, at least ang interpretation ko dito is, in order to stay together is you have to evolve together. Hindi pwede na yung isa is magiging stagnant lang. It's also a fun watch because isa to sa mga pinaka-quirky films out of the bunch.
If you're going to look at it, napaka-dark talaga nung theme and concept, but it's presented in a light and humorous manner. And then the filmmaking here is just feels unpretentious because during the press con, I happen to know that they shot this only through a phone.
Okay, next Next up is Pabasa Pasyon, written and directed by Hubert Tibi. Set sa Lenten season, tungkol ito sa isang pamilya to make ends meet turns their fate into a service. Tuwing Lenten season, lagi ako curious kung saan nanggagaling yung mga matatandang kumakanta ng pasyon. Nakakaranas ako niyan kapag umuwi kami sa hometown ng mami ko. Yun, marami kasing nagpapasyon doon ng matatanda na hindi naman namin kamag-anak. Actually, dito ko lang nalaman na, well, binabayaran pala yung iba sa mga yun, no? Heartbreaking film. Kasi alam naman natin na nagbabago na yung landscape ng mundo. Nakikita natin kung paano sila nag-i-struggle to make ends meet. Dati malakas yung mga ganyan eh. In a way, mga religious services. Pero ngayon, let's just say na not so much. And this movie just portrayed people in all culture-related services in general na naapektuhan ng changing landscape ng mundo. And this is a really enjoyable film din para sa akin.
Yes, and apart dun sa modernization that affected our long-standing traditions about yun nga sa mga pabasa and other traditions in the Lenten season, I would also like to point out yung religious hypocrisy that the short film, in essence, if it's still relevant at kung naisasabuhay pa talaga. Slice of life approach to. So medyo it could be meandering for some of the casual viewers, but in the end, it's just a sad story that it tells a lot of our culture that we have struggled to preserve. I think the next one is in Kapampangan dialect, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's King Lalam ng Aldo. It's Under the Sun, directed by Reeden. So ito naman is ang story ng isang transgender and nag-decide siya na i-renovate ang kanyang bahay nang biglang dumating ang kanyang anak-anakan. This one is another sweet and heartwarming film and with a little bit of a sad undertone into it. I guess this one speaks about the forgotten family members. Normally naman ganun ang buhay pagka sa buhay probinsya, pagka lumipat na sa Maynila. May mga times na we take some of our family members for granted.
Usually yung mga ganito nagfo-focus dun sa umuuwi, whereas ito is nag-focus dun sa mga naghihintay. And this is the sweetest out of the bunch and I really like this. Ultimately, this is about a parent waiting for his child. And I agree with all your points. There are times na natitake for granted natin yung mga kamag-anak na naiiwan natin when we pursue our dreams. That also speaks a lot to me, Fritz.
Yeah, and I also like to point out na yung mga characters natin dito fall on the LGBTQ, but the film never really lingered on the sexuality aspect, and it's more of a show not tell, and it's no longer important what's the real association of the main character here dun sa hinihintay niya. It's about a longing of a parent to a child which will resonate no matter what your sexuality or your gender is.
Okay, so ang next movie natin ay The Slums, written and directed by Jan Andre Kobe. Ngayon, this is about the daily life ng isang poor family na dinodocument ng isang documentary team. This really talks about media. At kung paano nila pwede i-manipulate yung portrayal ng kanilang mga pinapalabas at finifeed sa minds nating mga viewers. This is a family that even though they're poor, they're not necessarily lonely. They're not necessarily struggling as the documentary team wants to portray. They're really a happy family. Marami ngayong usap-usapan about media bias. This is also a really timely short film for what's going on right now.
Yeah, I agree. And also the way this is shot, because one of my favorite comedies is yung Modern Family. So I felt like I watched that in a sense that it's a mockumentary, and this one is set on the slums. Yeah, it's about media trying to sensationalize everything, like trying to make them miserable than what they actually are. The strength of this whole movie is in its humor. Each character here, they all have their quips and gags. I think this is the most fun short film out of the bunch. I do like that the short film ends on a positive note, that them as a family don't really need the fame, that they are happy as their own and they don't give a damn about what the outsiders thinks about them. Okay, next is Tokwifi. It's directed by Carla Pulido Ocampo. This is the story of a bachelor ignorant man, and during his late night journeys, he sees a falling star. The word Tokwifi stands for a star, and as he reaches that crash landing site, what he finds is a TV, and trapped inside is a 1950s star. I think this is one of the most original concepts that I've seen out of the short films, and you've seen the two characters. This is a romance story, but more than that, it's about preserving culture and, you know, learning that two worlds which are different in culture and different in time can coexist. It feels like an abstract concept, but there's so much meat and meaning to this story because one character here, the 1950s mestiza star, occasionally looked down on the ignorant man, and throughout the film they came to an understanding, and it's such a beautiful film for me. Also, the visuals are very arresting.
This has the best concept, the most unique definitely. Yung performance dito, especially nung 1950s actress.
Adrian Vergara.
Yeah, it's really great. Nakuha ko yung message about differences in culture. Pero this is a movie where I really struggled to interpret the meaning of it. But I don't think that it's really meant to do that to you. Siguro masyado lang nag-overthink na what's the meaning of this, because the concept is just so unique. So I want to know what are the thoughts behind it. Across the board, this is definitely one of the best out of the bunch. Okay, so final film is Utwas, directed by Richard Salvadico at Arlie Sweet Sumagaysay. Utwas is tungkol sa isang batang nagngangalang Toto as he tries to learn how to dive to catch fish. Out of the entries dito sa Cinemalaya, ito ang pinaka nature-oriented. Pinakita dito yung mga concepts which is not really new pagdating sa indie cinema, Philippine cinema, but still effective all the same. Andyan ang dynamite fishing, yung pagloloiter sa mother nature. Dapat iniingatan natin ang mother nature because we have only one earth. Ito yung isa sa mga movies na mapapaisip ka, and at the same time na gusto mo mapanood ng mga kapwa mo Pilipino. These are the kinds of things that you shouldn't do. You should really appreciate nature. You shouldn't destroy it.
I'm not sure what the dialect of the title is, but Utwas means to arise or to resurface. It almost feels like the sea is a character. Ramdam na ramdam mo yung mood. Yun nga nabanggit yung dynamite fishing na it's not a new concept, but what's frustrating is you think dynamite fishing is already a thing in the past, but up to now, nangyayari pa rin talaga siya. Whatever you do to the sea, it affects its mood and impacts everyone and everything in many ways. Yung ending nito medyo cliffhanger, so subject to open interpretation, but I like na kung paano pinagtagpi nung short film yung arc about sa dynamite fishing, and then the father-son relationship about yung son na he's trying to prove his worth to his father, that he can be a better fisherman and hold his breath longer. Okay, now so out of the whole 10 short films, we are going to pick our top 3.
Definitely, ang mga favorite ko dito ay una yung Lalam ng Aldo, because that's just a really sweet film. Got to me on a personal level. Ang isa pa ay yung ang pagkakalma sa unos, because of how relevant it is to what is actually happening today, na medyo nasasalanta tayo, while not by mother nature kundi by a pandemic. Probably ang favorite ko of the bunch is Fatigue. Written and directed ito by James Mayo. I don't think nabanggit ko siya kanina, but this is definitely yung favorite ko out of all of them. Ito yung film na halos hindi ako pinatulog kagabi. It's just really effective. Para dun sa kanyang runtime as a interactive film, as a horror film. So definitely, that's my favorite.
Okay, so I know magugustuhan mo yun kasi gamer ka eh. Pero ang top 3 ko naman, same with you. Gustong-gusto ko yung ang pagkakalma sa unos. Napakaganda ng visual poetry niya. Also, I do like Tokwifi. I felt like this is something that I will appreciate more after multiple viewings. And I do like also Living Things. Actually, I would like to see Living Things taken to a full-length film. I'm actually interested. So that's our top 3 picks. And that's our whole review for Cinemalaya 2020. Go ahead and check them on Vimeo. But guys, if you have seen these short films, comment down below what you think about them.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and support Filipino films. Panoorin nyo to. Hindi siya ganun kamahal.
Yeah.
It's 150, 200, or 350 for all of these. Talagang dapat isupport natin ang mga Filipino filmmakers. And as always, see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.